Parenting is one of the most profound things that we can do, and it can also be one of the loneliest. We're all doing it, but so many of us are doing it in isolation, wondering if everyone else has it more together than we do. And that's exactly why my colleague Sam and I created Seen Circles, a place online where parents can come together to feel genuinely seen and heard. Think of it like a compassionate parenting village online, where you can drop in and out whenever you need some listening or support. Each circle is facilitated by a skilled person, and some sessions explore a specific theme, while others are simply a space to share what's been on your mind, what you've been navigating, or what's felt hard lately. Circles run at different times throughout the week to suit everyone's schedule, and there's no pressure to share. But research shows that when we tell our stories and hear from others, it helps us feel so much less alone. Everyone gets the opportunity to speak, but you can simply listen if that's what you need. It's not therapy, and it's not about fixing anything. It's just about not doing this alone. And the feedback? Well, parents are telling us they feel less isolated, more supported, like they're actually learning something along the way. So you can join for one session or sign up for more. Think of it as an investment in your mental health as a parent. If you'd like to join a Seen Circle, head to seencircles.org and sign up today. We would love to have you.
The human experience, with our flaws, our passions, our triggers, our inspirations, and our imprints. If we could see behind everyone's story, then perhaps what we would have is deep compassion. In this podcast, I get the chance to explore these stories from some truly fascinating people in some honest and heartwarming conversations. And best of all, I get to share these discussions with you. I'm Lael Stone, and this is Humans Being.
Hello everybody, welcome to Humans Being. I'm Lael Stone, and my humanness for this week has been all about actually staying open to the interesting conversations. So by nature, even though this may not seem the case because I speak on stages and I talk a lot, my natural state is actually an introvert. Like, I much prefer my own company, being quiet, being on my own. And in the last week, I've had to do 4 social events, which feels like a monster stretch for me because I'm usually like, let me just be on my balcony, being quiet. So I went into all these social events just being like, come on, Lael, you can do it. It's fine, chat with people. And I have to say, I came out the other side sweetly surprised. I sat down next to this beautiful woman who I swear was like 25, had 4 kids. She was homeschooling them all, living off the land. And I was like, I'm interested how this woman is still standing. So we had the most fascinating conversation. Then I met this other young, amazing human who shared the story with me about when he took magic mushrooms and ended up staring at the sun for too long and almost became blind. That was another fascinating story that we uncovered. And then I had this other beautiful doctor I ended up sitting next to at an event who was talking about how burnt out he was from working in the healthcare system and how unsupported, often medical professionals feel. That was another amazing conversation. And I came home and it really made me remember about how everybody has a story. And even in my beautiful introverted state where I just want to be like, F off world, leave me alone, I just want to be quiet, it made me remember about how fascinating humans are. And sometimes when we take a moment to lean in and listen, everybody's got a beautiful story and we may just learn a few things. So my humanness this week and my invitation to all of you is have the conversation. Strike up a chat with somebody. You never know what amazing little bit of info you might come away with. Now, my guest today is a woman who I believe loves a story. She's an amazing storyteller. I am so thrilled to welcome to the podcast today, Rusciano. Welcome, Em. It's so good to have you here.
Oh, it's so good to be here. Thank you for having me. Tell me more about the man who took mushrooms and stared at the sun.
I have to tell you, we were crying, laughing because he had this whole enlightened experience. And then he said, and then I realized I probably couldn't see. So I had to ring my mum and say, Mum, can you take me to the doctors? And then his mum had to take him to the doctors and this whole thing. unfolded. It was one of the funniest stories I've ever heard, but it was also one of those like, yeah, maybe not a smart idea to do. So,
Wow.
yeah, it was
Okay.
it was a cracker. Now, before we jump in, I'm just going to read a little bit about Em, if you don't know who she is, just so you can get a bit of an understanding who this really dynamic woman is sitting across from me. Em is a comedian, singer, author, podcaster, and self-described maximalist power queen who has spent 2 decades making Australians laugh, cry, and feel a little less alone. She first captured national attention on Australian Idol in 2004 and has since built a career on radio, sell-out stand-up tours, many successful brand partnerships, and social media community of over 500,000 people. In her early 40s, Em received what she calls the Diagnostic Trifecta. I love this. ADHD at 42, autism the following year, and perimenopause thrown in for good measure. All 3 of her beautiful children are also neurodiverse, and that experience sits at the heart of everything she makes now. Her 2023 address to the National Press Club on ADHD and her son's autism was widely praised for the way it shifted the conversation around neurodivergence in Australia. Her memoir, Blood, Sweat and Glitter, covers the 5 years that changed everything. Her debut book, Try Hard, hit the top of the iBook charts before it was even released. And she's currently on a national tour, 2026 live tour, Addicted to Love. Oh, I read all that and go, do you need to lay down? Because when you hear your bio, are you like, no wonder I'm a bit tired?
Yes, I'm exhausted all of the time, but I also work for myself. So if I lay down, I can't pay my mortgage.
Yeah.
And I'm in the arts, and that's touch and go at the best of times. So
you got to take it while it's there.
Yeah, I'm so tired. And we thank God for undiagnosed Em, because if I had have been medicated earlier, I don't think I would have achieved quite so much. So we thank
Don't
her.
you sometimes realize that as you get older, you go, oh my goodness, those traits in me that are what made me achieve stuff, like are the ones that made me go, I can do that. Like sometimes the beautiful naivety of who we are makes us back ourselves and do stuff that I often look back and think, what was I thinking? But you're like, you just did it. So what a gift. What a gift.
My entire career is me doing things I have no business doing, because I thought my toxic trait is seeing something once and reckoning that I could do that. Anything. I watched Grey's Anatomy, someone does a tracheotomy with a ballpoint pen, and I'm like, I can do that. Yeah. So it's the same with stand-up and radio and singing and podcasting. I got a bit of a sniff of it and went, right, let's go. Yeah.
Do you know, you saying that Grey's Anatomy, because I want to talk about storytelling, but I have to tell a really funny story. So in COVID, when it was complete nightmare, my youngest, who was maybe 14 at the time, we homeschooled for a year because we were like, we're not doing this online thing. So we loosely homeschooled. Anyway, one day she decided to go down to Chapel Street, which is a place in Victoria, in Melbourne here, and she went op shopping. And anyway, what happened is she's on the street. Somebody, I think they were pretty drugged. Someone stabbed this other woman right in kind of front of her. Everybody stopped, and she said she'd spent most of COVID watching Grey's Anatomy, so felt like she was like basically a doctor. So what she did, she basically stopped traffic. This is a 14-year-old, yelled, somebody call an ambulance, and then ran and got some like paper towel and stuff to put on this woman's chest because she was bleeding. I mean, I wouldn't do that, she goes. And what she hated was that everybody was kind of just standing around watching going, oh my God, like what's going on? But, she then rings me and goes, Mom, I'm here with the police. This whole thing happened. And I'm like losing my mind going, darling, what were you thinking? And she goes, I don't know. I just watched Grey's Anatomy, so I thought I knew what to do.
Yeah. She'll go far. She'll go far in life. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Good.
So my podcast is really all about the humanness behind all of us, what we see and the story behind who we are. And I really do have a theory, if we knew everybody's stories, we would have no judgment around who people are, because we would see the path that it has taken them to get where they are. So being in the public eye for many, many years of your life, how have you navigated the judgments and the public opinion of the world?
Towards me?
Yeah.
Navigating it suggests that I think it's taken me a long time to not take on board people's opinions of me as fact. I think often in the early days especially, I would read a criticism and assume that meant that it was true and that, my character was flawed and my job's going to end and everyone's going to hate me. My job tragically depends on people liking me, and that's hard for a people-pleasing, ADHD, autistic, type A, daughter of an immigrant, eldest daughter of an immigrant. I'm much better now at not reading everything. My community especially are fierce keepers of my heart and soul and mind, and often go into bat for me if something that they feel is unfair or untrue is written. Oftentimes I don't even know about it or have to correct it because I have such an incredible community of supportive people. But I think what I've had to work on is that all I can really control is how I respond to that criticism, how I show up in the world, and anything beyond that, I just can't make my business or I will go crazy. So I really work on being kind of the best person I can be and have great people around me who pull me up when I'm being a lunatic. And if I'm kind of ticking all those boxes, if things still get written, they don't tend to bother me as much.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's a really crippling thing for a lot of people, isn't it? The idea of what people think, especially creatively, I'm not going to do it because what if it doesn't land? I just think it takes so much courage to put yourself out there creatively. And I know for, I guess, people who that is just their soul, you can't not. Like, it's just part of, I have to do this. And obviously that's been a big part of your work. You have shared what has been happening in your life, and that's become a show or it's become another song, or which is such a beautiful way to process what happens. Do you find that because you're being brave enough to put that out there, it's a cathartic experience for you to process what's going on in your life?
It is and it isn't. I think for me, I don't really have a choice. This thing builds up in me like a pressure. So I'll have this huge life experience, and then to survive it, I become relentlessly curious about it. I find the beauty in it. I find the ways I can monetize my trauma. And then I look for the resource that's going to explain it to me. And oftentimes, because a lot of it's been in women's health, I'm not finding the resource that's giving it to me in a way that I can receive it. Obviously, there is so much information out there about neurodivergence and menopause and perimenopause now, but there's some misinformation. There's so much there. And especially if you're in a complete brain fog and everything is overwhelming you, you just want a one-stop shop. It's what I found. So I go through whatever's happened. I become an expert on it, which is very neurodivergent of me. And then I figure out how to make that information accessible to the next woman who is laying awake at 2 a.m., crying in the fetal position, holding, questioning all that she holds dear and who is she and why is my life all of a sudden not fitting who I am? And these are all real experiences that I had. And so I've made podcasts about perimenopause. I've made podcasts about being autistic ADHD. My stage shows were about that. This new show is about navigating divorce and separation in your 40s, and just also the way women have been expected to show up in love, and that, being chosen is the number one thing that's indoctrinated into us from little girls, and boys just simply don't have that same programming. And I did wake up at 45 and just look at my life and think, what the fuck is in this for me? And I was really angry. And so I wrote a comedy about it, because if you don't laugh, you'll cry. But yeah, everything I make is for Em when she was in the absolute trenches and needing just a little bit of light to stand in. I make it for her. I make it for my daughters. I make it for every woman that messages me and says, I don't know what's going on in my life, but I have this need to blow it up. That's why I make the things I make.
It's a good reason to make those things, let me just say, because everyone else sitting here is like nodding along, particularly women going, oh, I feel seen in that, or that I relate to that. I mean, I am in menopause now. I've moved through that transition. And for me, perimenopause and moving to this stage was like the reckoning. That's how I used to explain it. It's like a reckoning. It's the shedding of all the stories. It's the good girl dying. It's the not wanting to take care of people. It's all those kind of things that seem to rise to the surface. I mean, there's a lot that you've spoken about, but what do you think the key piece is, what it's taught you about you, like moving through these transitions?
I think the big thing I've taken away is I'm allowed to trust myself, my first instinct. I'm allowed to say no, because oftentimes as women, we say yes to things when we are in fact saying no to ourselves at the same time. I'm allowed to take up space. I'm allowed to put myself first. And I think that was the biggest takeaway. I made a podcast called Rage Against the Vagine, and I had 25 world-leading experts on, and we talked about everything behind the science and all the medication and everything. And the number one thing that they all kept saying was the hardest thing was convincing women between 35 and 50 to prioritize themselves. That, like, of everything these excellent people are coming up against, sitting opposite a woman and saying, babe, you need to go to the gym and get strong because your bones are disintegrating. You need to eat more protein. You need to get more sleep. You need to tell your children to do more. You need to either leave your husband or get him to step in. You need to stop over-functioning and stop letting him under-function. There's this whole thing that really boils down to put yourself first. And they said that was the toughest thing. So I've become militant about protecting my health, my peace, my body. And it sounds twee and it sounds cliche and all of the things, but that's been the biggest change for me, and the biggest improvement was when I got serious about prioritizing myself, because at our age, the red light of the engine comes on and shit you've never had a problem with, your eyesight, your teeth, your joints, all of a sudden everything starts malfunctioning. And then you go to the doctor and you're like, I have 25 things wrong with me. And then you gaslit, and then you're told you're depressed, and then you're told to lose weight. And then but in fact, it's perimenopause. It's, you know, the estrogen, the protective hormone that's a part of every major bodily function all of a sudden is dropping. Of course, your system is going, what the fuck is going on? But we are often made to feel like divas if we go in with our list of 25 things. So a woman taking care of herself first is a radical punk act and goes against everything we have been taught as women to do. So 100%. If you are listening now, if the only thing you take away from this chat, come to my stand-up show, Addicted to Love, you'll leave a changed person. But also put yourself first, no bullshit. Protect everything that makes you feel better, like your life depends on it, because bitch, it does.
It so does. And I think it's, I mean, I have navigated so much. What you're talking about is undoing the imprints of what was modeled to us. I mean, for me, that is like a massive part of the work, is not just what society has conditioned us, but what we witnessed with our own mothers, our grandmothers. So, you know, I wrote a book on that because I was just like, we got to undo that. And probably similar for you. I have 2 daughters as well and a son, and I just look at my daughters and go, I want you to see a different story.
Yeah.
I want you to know that self-care is part of your journey. I want you to have healthy boundaries. So as much as I was having to learn how to do it for me, I am like, here is a line I'm drawing in the sand for us, you know, so that you can see that. And I love that. I see that in my daughters. They're fierce about their self-care. They're fierce about their boundaries. And I'm like, okay, you know, I had to do it the hard way, but I love that they're seeing a different way of doing that. So, you know, I'm like, amen to all of that. I'm curious about, because your littlest guy is still a little human. And, you know, when we go through menopause or perimenopause, you know, that estrogen drops, it's that caregiving hormone, where I found in my mothering journey, my kids are all adults now, but as I was going through that, I'm like, I just don't want to mother anymore. I don't want to take care of anyone. I just don't want to. And I've got quite a few friends who are still in this stage who've got little humans they have to look after. And I'm looking at them going, how's that going for you? Because like, how is that? I mean, you know, that you're still having to mother and you're also navigating all of this.
Yeah. And he's autistic as well. And with that comes a relentlessly curious brain. He is highly intelligent, like the smartest person in our family by a mile. Everyone would say that. And so he requires a different type of parenting than what the girls did, in that it's kind of like parenting a 60-year-old cranky super genius. So it's a different type of parenting with Elio. I can't just say things like, because I said so. And I can't just, he has extreme PDA profile as well, which is persistent drive for autonomy, which means anything you tell him to do or ask him to do, his body perceives as a demand. So I can't say, clean your teeth, or that will be a 3-hour standoff. It has to be like, babe, your toothbrush has got toothpaste on it. It's hanging around the sink. If you feel like it, go and do it. Now that's exhausting. I don't want to do that. Sometimes I just want to be like, clean your fucking teeth so we can get to school. But I may as well be speaking in Chinese to this child who, honestly, he could probably understand at this point. So I think for me, for good or for bad, the universe has sent me a child that I am very capable of parenting at this point in my life, because he doesn't need the usual type of, you know, teaching or supervision, or he's very sensible. He's very adult-like. He's, I don't know. It's like I said, it's like parenting a very small, cranky adult with no emotional regulation. Also, his sisters live at home still. They're 24 and 19. So he's got 3 mothers, essentially. He's best mates with my Italian father. Those two are lunatics together. Both the girls have incredible boyfriends he's very close with. So he has a bunch of adults around him already supporting him. And they help parent him. He is truly being parented by a village, for good or for bad. So I think, I was definitely sent him for a reason. I would never have discovered that I was autistic. I would have discovered probably that I was ADHD. There was all these things that he was, I believe, put in my life for me to discover. But yeah, it's a challenge. He's definitely, he's his own challenge.
I love that, but I love how you view that, because he's a gift. I mean, all children are a gift, right? But I think sometimes we look at these kiddos who I kind of believe are sent to us, and we're like, oh, you are here to teach me. Without doubt, you are the gift. Like, I think in my head, I'm your parent and I should guide you, but my God, you are here to teach me. I mean, it sounds like he's giving you a masterclass in patience and understanding.
And also, a new way of parenting. Often we default to now, if you were me, Elio, how would you help you right now? And he's incredible. But also he came to us, at the start of lockdowns. I had him in 2019. So he got this whole family through. It was like watching the greatest television show of all time. The girls were here to watch him have his first solid meal, say his first word, take his first step. And that all happened during the lockdowns. And he truly was the reason we all survived it as a family. So there's so many things he's brought to this family. And, I'm so glad and grateful that he's here. But it's fucking hard. And some days I just want to say, no, not today, mate.
Yeah, it's so challenging. I think that, motherhood as a whole is one of the most humbling and exhausting and expanding and just joyous things that you do. It's like all of it in that all happens in 5 minutes, right? And I think it just is, it teaches us the greatest stuff. Like I often used to say, if you want to become spiritually enlightened, just try and parent your kids consciously, right? I mean, you could go sit on a mountain and meditate for 10 years, but I'm like, that would probably be easy compared to staying calm and meeting your kids' needs and seeing what's going on behind their behavior and all that kind of stuff. It's really, really challenging. I mean, it really does make me take my hat off to, look, all parents can be extraordinary, but I think often when women are doing a lot of the heavy lifting, particularly that main caregiving at home, it's huge. It's huge.
And it's also hard when you have one parent who has done all the work and goes to all the appointments and learns, the way to communicate and the way to parent and the way to discipline, and the other hasn't or won't engage with it. That presents a whole other issue that I don't really think gets talked about a lot, because so much of the lion's share of that stuff does fall, in a stereotypical heteronormative household, fall on the mother. And oftentimes the father is, if you've got an autistic son, there's a good chance there's an autistic father involved, and they haven't figured that out about themselves, or they don't want to. And the things that, I found Elio was doing things that really frustrated Scott, but I know Scott was seeing himself in that, my ex-husband. And to my ex-husband's credit, he's come a long way in understanding himself through Elio. But I was navigating both of them coming up against each other because they're so similar, but also dad's exhausted and he's like, just go to your room or just do this. And then Elio has no fear, by the way. He will stand there and say, no, absolutely not. So that's also tough. And parenting as a whole is, people get very nervous when mothers complain about it as well. If mothers say it's hard, if mothers say, I don't want to do this today, I don't like my kid very much. I love him, but today he's an asshole. People get very, I find, nervous and uncomfortable when women in general express discomfort about traditional stuff.
Yeah. And I would agree with you that I've worked with families for over 20 years now, and one of the big things I've worked with families is saying it's okay to not like it. And it's okay to say this is really hard. Like I felt like that when my kids were little. I remember ringing my mum going, like I had to whisper it on the phone. I was like, I don't like this. Because I was just not taking all the things we're talking about. Wasn't taking care of myself, had no boundaries, no self-care, had this idea of that I should just be all giving to everybody. And I was totally burnt out, like all the things. We know all that.
Oh, no, yeah, for sure.
And then we beat ourselves up thinking, and I don't like it, so what's wrong with me? I mean, there's so much that we need to blow open about being real about it, because we all deeply love and care for our children and would fight for them and just all the things. And we are also allowed to say parenting in this day and age is really tough because, I mean, it sounds like in those beautiful COVID years you had the little village there, but for a lot of people that doesn't exist at all.
No. And also the other thing is, and I talk about this in Addicted to Love, nobody kind of took me aside at 20 and told me about the invisible contract I was entering into. The women that came before me didn't say, hey, are you right with giving up the next 20 odd years of your life? Of, you know, being everything to everybody all at once and then feeling like an empty vessel when you wake up at 40 and realize that you've completely set yourself on fire to keep everybody warm. I think my daughters certainly know that now. And I think if more young people knew what was silently expected of them, the way traditional relationships roll out. And again, I mean, I have many lesbian friends who are in couples they've figured it out. Like I only speak to the heteronormative couples because the gay people have figured it out. There's no issue with division of labor that I can see. And the lesbians, God, if I could be a lesbian, I am living proof that sexuality is not a choice. Yes. But yeah, I think that idea of explaining to the generation underneath us, the girls especially, what is maybe expected of them, I think there needs some changes.
Or also, I just think I look at that with my kids and go, there is a way to do it well.
Yes.
But it looks like these things. And I think it is dropping the conditioning and the imprints we've had for so many generations about what it is. Because our grandmothers parented in a completely different world than what we are doing now, right? So we can't compare that. No. And I think it's this big shift and change of like what needs to be different so we all thrive. Like one of my biggest catchphrases is this: how do we all get our needs met? How do we all get our needs met? Not me just giving to everybody else and then like falling into bed at the end of the night. Like how do we do that? And I think that these are such really important conversations to have. And I do have so much hope for this next generation because I look at the shit that I used to put up with when I was my daughter's age that they do not tolerate now. And I'm just like, yes, if I've done one thing right in the world, it's raising these beautiful humans, and my son as well. He's deeply gorgeous, compassionate, beautiful man that takes deep care and understands. But I'm just like, okay, if I've just changed it in my lineage, then that is a good thing. But these are conversations I agree with that we need to be having because it's we've got to shift and move the needle with it.
Yeah.
I talk a lot about imprints, so the good stuff that we've carried on, the stuff that we don't want to carry. You know, I know you've got a beautiful relationship with your dad, with music, all that kind of stuff. If I was to say to you, what are two beautiful imprints that you receive from your family of origin? And it can be anything about the love of food. It could be music. It could be taking risks. It could be, if you think about two imprints that you've taken that have really supported you, what would they be?
I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about that. I come from a lineage of lunatics, in a good way. My dad, Vincey, he's 74. He's my best mate. We haven't always had a close relationship. Growing up, I had to try and find ways. I mean, we now know he's autistic ADHD, which made so much sense. And even he accepts that about himself now. But I could engage with him on F1. And so that's become my passion. And you know, I would sit up late with him and I knew that Dad and I could sit and chat if I brought up F1. But for me, my dad will have a crack at anything. Like, and I always watched him. He rebuilds car motors, very ADHD. You know, he'll see anything and have a go at it. And he's quietly brave in that way. My dad is very small, very shy, very unassuming unless he knows you. but he's probably one of the most quietly brave people I've ever kind of experienced. And so for me with Dad, it was, yeah, just going in assuming that this is going to work out and having a crack. With my mum, again, tricky relationship, boomer. She had a career. She tried to have it all as our poor boomer mothers did, and her and I are pretty similar. But my mum instilled in me this ironclad feminist left-wing independence. I was wrapped in a Gough Whitlam t-shirt when I was born. My mum and dad had queer people in the house very early on, diverse friends. My mum worked at the AIDS hospital in Melbourne. I used to hang out with the gay men at the hospice, to my mother's credit, when I was little. And so my mum, I was never taught to rely on a man. It was always make your own magic, make your own money. She has been through a lot in her life, and I think I certainly watched her at my age put her needs first. And her and I had a real fracture when she was going through perimenopause and menopause, but she didn't tell me. She started eating a lot of soy and linseed bread. And there was a lot of cupboard slamming.
Terrible, that stuff.
Yeah. There's a lot of cupboard slamming. If you've got a boomer mother, you know what I mean. She all of a sudden just went, nah. She stopped cooking dinner. It was just this whole like, nah. And at the time I'm like, bitch. And now I'm like, bitch, I get it. So yeah, I think both of my parents, my dad's an immigrant. He came to a foreign country and, had to start again with his family and worked so hard. And my dad's such a hard worker and my mum's so fierce and independent. And I think I can see how both of those have imprinted on me, and they both set really great examples in that way. And I grew up in a very neurodivergent household, and I didn't really know that until sometimes I go to my friends' houses and I'd notice how those families interacted, and it felt like I was visiting an alien planet. So yeah, I think they're probably the two things that I think that I can say. But my grandmothers before me were all, I'm from matriarchy, both sides, make no mistake. So I think you can tell that. And they were all amazing women. Yeah.
Which is so beautiful. And I love that, I think it's really important to honor the beauty of what we've carried down. Like there's something really amazing about that. And I think the older you get to, the more you appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
Like you just see where it's come from. And then there's the flip side of that, right, which is the imprints that we've taken on board that probably don't serve us as well. Like, what would you say those ones are that you maybe are still either working with or you've had to change?
That's tough. I mean, I know my parents did their absolute best now, and it's kind of cruel I didn't have this wisdom at 20 and 19. I think, I'm trying to pick one thing. There's so many things. And I don't want to like upset my parents, but I think mum and dad were not very good at, and I think it's generational also, speaking about their feelings and talking about when they were hurt or upset or disappointed or let down, and rejection sensitivity that comes with being neurodivergent. So a lot of things just never got spoken out loud and they would just build up. And I think I've gone probably too far the other way in that I over communicate how I'm feeling. So I think finding that middle ground is still tough for me because I'm so scarred from the silent treatment that would come when they were both feeling overwhelmed. My parents just kind of shut down and stopped speaking. And at the time, when you're a little kid, when your parents are giving you the silent treatment, it's really difficult. And I've become a people pleaser because of that. And my job as a little kid from very early on, especially with my mum, because she's highly sensitive, highly intelligent person, and the world is a lot for her. And I now know she goes into like autistic shutdown. But at the time, it felt like she was punishing me. And so there would be days and days of silent treatment, and that really affected me. And so it became my full-time job as a little girl to make my mum happy and do impressive things and overachieve in the hope to bring her out of her depression or her bad mood. So as a result, I still now overdo stuff and try and win people over and want people to choose me and pick me. And again, this is all in my show, this whole notion of I just always want someone to stand in a room and point at me and say her above everyone else. She's the one. I pick her. I choose her. She's so impressive. So I think to answer your question, I need to get better at, and I am slowly getting better at, not doing things for the sole purpose of external validation. That's been, and I've become a performer, ironically, and my dad sits on stage with me in my band. But I think that's probably the big thing I'm still working on, is not doing things for other people's approval, full stop. Doing it for having it be enough that I'm proud of me. You know, I really used to notice if someone didn't acknowledge me or thank me for things, and I took it as though they meant they didn't want to like be associated with me, or they're embarrassed of me. Now, if I think it's good, I'm really still working on it. It's like, okay, that's enough. And if anything else comes of that, it's a bonus. But I think my parents did. Now I have all the information on their brains, and they're incredible grandparents. My God, and I do feel a little bit, I do watch them with my kids and I'm like, get fucked. Why did you do that for me? Yes. Okay, we're fine now with having the boyfriends around. Well, I had to hide one in a cupboard once. So I think, I think that would be the thing. Yeah.
Uncommon. I mean, so many things of what you're saying there I have heard many, many times before from parents, of just knowing how much their parents love them, and that, you know, that can be true. And also at the same time, especially the emotional shutdown is so painful, isn't it? Because our job as a child then is to be like, I've got to make this better. This is my fault.
That was my full-time job. Yeah. But also my parents love me. The love for them is overwhelming. And I know that too. Like, they feel it so intensely that it hits them like a big wave, and it actually short circuits both of them. They found it. They never came and watched me. I was a world junior hurdler. I was a state level netballer, and oftentimes they just wouldn't come and watch. And again, I took that as being, I'm not good enough. But now I know my dad would get so anxious that I would get hurt. Yes. That I would be disappointed, and my mum would feel the same way, that actually coming to watch felt like the most overwhelming. And so that's why they didn't come. But at the time, I processed that as, they don't like me very much. I'm not worth watching.
Yes.
I know that now, but I was programmed for 20 odd years to think I wasn't even enough for my primary caregivers to love and come and watch. And I'm still working through that now as a 47-year-old woman.
Yeah. Look, I would thank you for sharing that so honestly, Em, because it's not uncommon at all. I hear that a lot. And I think it is one of these beautiful, raw, tender wounds that can be healed. And it is exactly as you're saying, it's coming back to our own innate knowing, enoughness, all the stuff that we know that we're meant to feel and do. But I think understanding those stories and patterns make a massive, they help us to understand it, to go, oh, that is why this and this lined up. And actually the truth is this. And then what we get to do, as you're doing now, is be able to identify it and see it and change it for your kids moving forward. Say the things that needed to be said, turn towards the stuff that's not spoken, like bring awareness to it so that we don't then create those stories that we carry forward. I know you also mentioned too that school was pretty challenging for you, and that some imprints around education or school was really hard. Is that because you realise now that you were probably neurodivergent and it wasn't seen? Like what was that like for you?
I honestly don't know how the ADHD was missed. Like, to me, that feels almost negligent, but girls were just not getting diagnosed with ADHD in the 80s and 90s. It just wasn't a thing. And I was hyperactive though. Like, I certainly did present as Bart Simpson in primary school. So again, I don't know how it was missed, but for me, I always felt a huge disconnect, and it was always pointed out in the subjects I was really good at, say PE, art, drama, all the kind of creative-y stuff. I was super good and present, did all my homework on time, showed up to class, listening. But then when it was in the subjects where my, dyslexia, issues of spatial awareness, all that stuff, dyspraxia, so that was maths, science, the teachers were like, well, you're getting A's here. You're so good here. Why are you being lazy? Why are you not just applying your brain in the same way in this subject? But I would sit there and the numbers were jumping around and I couldn't hold any information, and I'm terrible at, retaining stuff that I'm not interested in. I could do a PhD in the stuff I love, but like remembering, the periodic table, I don't give a shit about the periodic table because my brain is interest-driven, not importance-driven. And I think if I had have known that earlier, if you can apply, say, you love dinosaurs, apply that to science, I would have been fine. But yeah, I think school for me was this constant. I was really good at the hard stuff and not very good at the easy stuff. And so my sense of achievement and accomplishment was tied to being bad at the easy stuff. So then the hard stuff didn't seem like it was hard, because if I could do it, then it must be not impressive at all. So my sense of kind of self-worth and self-esteem really took a hit early in school. So I know teachers would have got together in the classroom and been like, is she the same student? Because my English teacher would, even though I was really lucky in that I had some great English teachers who I still can't spell, I still sometimes write letters backwards, but knew I had high intelligence. My handwriting, I used to have to go do handwriting classes, and I had to have a slope card, and handwriting for me was so traumatic. But I had a couple English teachers who saw that I was a great storyteller, that I had, incredible vocabulary, and, I was an avid, ferocious reader. So they would help me, and, the spelling tests and stuff would become less and not as important. So I did have a few English teachers that really pushed me and saw potential in me. But it's kind of pot luck with students like me, and if teachers want to take the time and if they see it. And yeah, school was, I wanted it. I wish I could go back and do it now with the information I have. And high school was even worse, because then all the social stuff came into play, and I have no social skills. I don't observe hierarchy because of the way my brain is wired. So I didn't understand that there are some kids you got to talk to in a certain way because they're like queen bee, and then there are some kids you don't. So I would speak to everybody in the same manner, and I do it now with the way I interview. It could be Meryl Streep or it could be our cleaner. Everybody gets the same treatment from me because that's how my brain works. So yeah, high school was worse for me, I think, because of the social stuff. But school was a tough one, and still is for kids who have brains like mine. And if we can just unlock their passion subjects and then apply the learning principles to that, I think school would be way more successful for neurodivergent kids.
100%. I mean, I actually have my own school that I created. It's a primary school, but that is one of the things that we look at, because we're like, we all learn differently. And I really hear your story of, again, the knowing what we know now, what we would do differently. And yes, at the time there wasn't enough information or learning and understanding about it. And yet I also think sometimes there's these extraordinary coping and skills and adaptability that we foster within ourselves when we don't fit in, which actually can fuel us to do amazing things. I mean, it doesn't take away from the hurt and the exclusion we can often feel. But, I often look back and think these things that we didn't get, or how we had to figure stuff out, actually has fueled us to go and do some pretty extraordinary things in the world. And what I hold hope in now is these conversations that we have help parents to be able to go, where's my kiddo at? How do we help shift this system a little bit so that we can meet the needs of all humans, not just a certain fit in this box, And I think that and as particularly because schooling is such a massive imprint on a lot of people, there's a lot of emotional damage we could save, couldn't we, if we kind of restructured it in a whole other way.
Yeah, and so much of who we are is kind of built, as you know, because of your study, up to 7, so many important things happen to our little brains and bodies in the way we kind of are going to walk through the world. And then again, from 7 to 14, it's that shaping of sense of self and morals and values. And, it's such an incredible time to be able to help a young person have a successful adulthood. And so many of us neurodivergent people are walking into adulthood broken soldiers of war, because of what schooling was. And that, it makes me so sad, but also, what I think I've done and I'm guilty of as a parent now is, I've tried to protect my kids from hardship because I had so much. And I think we can go too far the other way in that we step in too early, we fight their battles for them. And so it does rob them of fostering an innate drive to achieve things for themselves. And yeah, I'm a relentless overachieving lunatic because my external drive was my parents' love. And so my kids don't have that problem. But, great acts of genius and incredible creativity comes from imbalance. Nobody goes out to make, something that completely takes over their life and they devote everything to it because they're happy, because they're feeling like there's balance in their life. No one's creating from a space of health, but that doesn't have to be the case. Like,
Yeah.
I think there's this kind of romantic notion within the arts community that you have to be tortured, but I do kind of challenge that a bit. There can be elements of that. But yeah, I think with my kids, especially with my girls now, I'm trying to let them fail, feel hurt, not fly in. And I'm a fly-inner and rescuer because I've always felt like I'm drowning, and I never wanted my kids to feel like if they stuck their hand up, no one would be there to lift them out of the water.
Yeah.
But I'm not even letting them like swim. So I think that's the big thing for me now, even though the girls are 24 and 19, they're going through their new adult stuff with relationships and changing friendships, and I have to be very conscious to not fix it. So that's kind of the opposite side of being raised by a boomer is I'm an exennial and I'm not allowing my kids to feel any sort of discomfort.
Yeah. And that's a problem. Like,
Yeah.
I see that as a big problem. We need to step back and we need to just do a lot of nodding. Like, I just say to
Yes.
parents of adolescents, they're like, how do you do it? I go, you nod a lot, and you just go, that sounds hard. And
Yes.
tell me more. And that's kind of it. And then if they ask you for advice, you offer it. But if they don't, then you don't offer. And you do a lot of you get really good at nodding. And they're like, and I'm like, I know it feels hard. It's such a hard thing to do. But actually, you're so right, Em. They have to feel the discomfort, because if we don't feel the discomfort, we're not going to exercise that muscle to know that we can navigate hard things. We can grow and learn. It is. And I do see that there's this learned helplessness that can often come out of love that we give our kids because we don't want them to feel pain, yet actually there's that really delicate balance of letting them sit in the tricky stuff. It's hard.
Yeah. It comes from love, but I think it also comes from impatience in our lives. It's so fast and so much demands, and like we just don't want to have to deal with the fallout of them making mistakes, because that's going to be,
It's going to impact
time
you.
and effort. Exactly. And I'm fucking tired. So
Well,
if I can
like,
see,
really,
if I can see my
tight
kids
yeah.
about to walk into a fire or hit a brick wall,
Yeah.
I've got to be like, no,
Yeah.
no, I don't want to deal with this in 2 weeks when I know that this is going to be an absolute bin fire.
Yeah.
But I'm going to I'm doing them both a disservice, and, they're heading into a tough world, and I'm not always going to be there to save them. So, yeah.
But you know what? The important thing is they know, and this is what I think, when stuff is hard, that they can fall back into you. And I say that to parents all the time. Our job is to walk beside them, is not get in the box with them.
Yeah.
And it's actually to get out of the box, stand beside them so they know they can fall into you. But
they do.
It takes a lot of practice. So it takes a lot of practice. Your relationship with Michael Lucas, who is just such a delight to witness and watch your beautiful friendship. It really is really beautiful. And I don't think we see lots of beautiful friendships modeled, and you two just laugh so beautifully together. You can see it. What have you learned, is the most important thing about friendships?
That they can be the greatest love stories of your life. I think he is my greatest love. He is the most successful relationship I've ever had. I have known him since I was 11 years old. Both our his mum and dad, his dad was the leading AIDS research doctor in the world, Ron, and his mum was infectious disease nurse. My mum was the medical research librarian. They all worked together. And we met hanging out with all the guys who were there dying of AIDS, and their families had abandoned them. And Michael and I would go sit with all these fabulous gay men and chat about Disney. And I don't know, we met there, and then we ended up at the same high school together, and we would both seek refuge in the library lunchtime. But for him, so much is put on romantic love, especially for women. And we're often considered failures if we don't find it or keep it. And I think I've had so much love from him and him from I. It's just been the most important relationship of my life. And he's the person, if I'm in a position, and this is a bit grim, but him and I have spoken about it, who do you want there at your end of life? Like, who do you want to be holding your hand? And I don't want my kids there. I want Michael Lucas there. I don't want my kids to see me take my last breath. I want Michael Lucas there. Like, he's my last breath guy. And we do talk about that a lot, and we talk about the funeral and how I want drag queens and no one's to wear black and all the things. But yeah, no, he's my greatest support and champion, and I'm his, and I always know he's there. I always know he's a phone call away. I've just, we had 10 years away from each other and came back together, and he was kind of coming out and very confused about things, and I was in the midst of postnatal depression and a terrible breakfast radio job, and we found each other again after 10 years, of not seeing each other, and he's just, yeah, he's the love of my life, the non-romantic love of my life. And Adrian, his husband, to his credit, knows that we're a package deal. So
I love that.
yeah,
I love what you speak to there, because it's not something that is held as tender as what we do intimate relationships, but those friendships are the ones that have seen us through everything that can be so profound and powerful. It deserves its own special category, doesn't it, of deep love. Yeah, that's really precious. And, just before we finish up, like, I know that you are, you've navigated a divorce and you're back, maybe on the dating scene. I want to hear, how is that dating in your late 40s?
Yeah.
As a woman now who's taken no shit and has kind of gone through the reckoning, like, how's that looking?
It's great. It's great. I mean, look, it's another lie we were told is that, if you end up single in your 40s, it's like the worst thing that could happen to a woman. But I contest that, and I say that the worst thing that can happen is you wake up in your 40s alone and miserable in a relationship you feel incredibly lonely in. I think that's probably worse than, being single and very happy with your life. It's been 18 months since Scott and I split up. We're still, he's coming over today. He's staying the night tonight because our eldest daughter has her netball grand final. Our lives are intertwined forever. It's tough, all the grief that came with, I was with that man for over half my life. He was really my first proper boyfriend. And the grief was a big process, stepping away from that. But I knew it was the right decision. And I often get asked by women who are thinking about leaving, how did you know? Because every woman I know of my age is thinking about leaving or has left. And that's the honest truth. It's the honest, brutal truth. And the women that don't leave have partners who step in and support them and are willing to adjust to the new boundaries, or the women are too exhausted and don't leave, or the women that do leave. And I say to them, I knew, because I was sad about the idea of us ending, but I felt sadder about the idea of us continuing as we were. And that was the big change for me. And I did honestly wake up one day and look at my life and just said, no. And I never thought I would ever get to that point, because I was so fiercely in this family. I was like so proud of my family. I didn't want to split it up. It was just like, and I never ever thought, and I'd entertained Scott and I separating. We'd already done it once 10 years ago, many, many times over. And I just thought, nah, there's no way. There was this steel door that would shut in my brain anytime I even thought, I think I want out. No. Then one day I woke up and it was just like, no, it's time. And it was a wild destination to arrive at for someone like me who has, big emotional attachment issues and sticky thoughts, and like the idea of abandonment and the idea of being away from Scott felt like chopping my arm off, because he's known me for so long and we're so 3 kids and been through hell and back. And the idea of leaving that felt so like free fall. And then it didn't. And I'm dating, and it's like a wild new experience. I haven't been single since the late 90s. I'll tell you now, straight men are in crisis, and never has that been more apparent than when you look at Hinge, when you look at the dating apps, and so many of these men are just, for the first time, and my show is a lot around this. So men for the first time are having to market themselves, and they're very bad at it, and there's been little product development. Women have spent their entire lifetimes marketing themselves. We know what to do. We know how to present. We know about customer satisfaction. We know about how to present in certain ways to keep certain people happy. But men are now discovering that they have to sell themselves to us, and they're very bad at it. And they're also discovering all the things that the patriarchy told them they weren't allowed to be. They couldn't be sensitive, they couldn't be soft, they couldn't be vulnerable, are all the things now women want. And it's, this terrible situation they're in. So it's not all men's fault, believe it or not. We as a society have not allowed them to have emotions in a safe way. And the number one thing I'm finding with men over 40 when they're single is they are terrified. All their profiles say, I just want somebody who doesn't take life too seriously. And that's straight man code for, please don't have any feelings at me. I don't know how to process them. Yep. And my ex-wife drowned me in them. And I don't want to have feelings, and you can't have feelings. Let's just have fun and not go deep. So I think the real thing that needs to happen now is men need to be retaught that it is safe and strong to have feelings, to talk about them, to say your dad didn't hug you enough, to say your mum, whatever. Like, I think there are all these things that women are very good at talking about and touching. But the reason there's this big divide between men and women now, especially for my generation, is because women are very good at talking about how we feel, and men receive that, this is generalizing, as an attack. They're not curious, they're defensive. And that's been my biggest takeaway. So I'm dating a lot of 35-year-old men. And that has been glorious because I'm in a new phase of I'm choosing. I don't need a husband or a father or somebody to buy a house with. I've done all that. So now it's purely about my desire, and I get to choose. And this, again, women are not told this. My babes, my darlings, when you are single in your 40s, it is a different rule book, and it's glorious. And when you empower women with this information, which is what my show's hopefully going to do, you wake up one day and you're like Sandy at the start of Greece. Like, the birds are there, they're flying your robe in, and you're putting in boundaries like a bad bitch, and it feels good. I do want to find a big love. I do want to have another partner. I do want to have someone to go on adventures with. I've not given up on that at all, but I'm also okay with being single. I'm also building a life that I love, that I'm fiercely protective of, that I want to set a better example to my girls, and how you show up in relationships. So if it happens, a big love for me now is a bonus, not a lifeline. And I think that's been the biggest shift for me. So yeah, look, if there's anyone out there who has like a dude between 35 and 45 who looks like a Viking, lots of tats, employed, smart, funny, if you know anyone like that who wants a strong, feisty Italian woman, send them my way. So happy.
There we go. Off you go, everyone. That's your mission. Let's find it. I love that. I don't know, really what I hear through so much of what you're saying, Em, is, it's beautiful, and you're such a gorgeous storyteller, is, the realness of being human, of being real. Circling back to just that, we weren't often taught how to feel, how to communicate, how to be. And we are, I really do believe, in this massive tipping point where we're talking about that more. And particularly I see that with women saying, I'm not going to actually tolerate that anymore. This is what's important. And what I get excited about is this wave of parents who are doing it differently with their kiddos, because it may not touch all the generation of men right now, but hopefully the next generation, when they have been raised to know it's okay to cry you can feel what you need to feel, then that's where we're going to see a big shift change. So
I already do. Yeah, the my two girls, they're dating boys who, the Gen Z men are pretty good. I have to say, my daughter's boyfriend, Mac, Odie, my youngest, he came down full face of glitter. They were dressed as rainbow fish. Like, he makes pottery. He worships her. And my other daughter's boyfriend, like Miro, they're good boys. He came down, he made me breakfast this morning. It's just little things where I think, you know what? I think the Gen Z man. Be right. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I agree. I see that in my kids and their partners as well. Like, I love it. One of my kiddos, she had a guy coming over, and he turned up with homemade like biscotti, like biscuits, and I'm like, oh my god, stay. I was just like, yeah, this is the next generation. Yeah. I love it. It's it gives me hope, doesn't it? It's beautiful. It's beautiful. All right. Last kind of question, like, this is kind of bigger pie in the sky. If you could change like just 3 things right now in the world to make it a much better place, like what would you change?
I think, I would give men the ability to talk about their feelings. Yes. Because I think that would shift leadership. I think that would shift the way companies are run. I think it would shift the way wars have started. I just think if we could go back and insert the ability in men to talk about their feelings, I think so much of the shit we're in now would be, I would change what we're doing to the environment, and I would have better conversations around the fossil fuels and especially with Australia. Why don't we have entire wind farms? I would remove AI. Except in medical situations, like with research and cancer breakthroughs. Like, I would allow AI to stay in medical, like, very helpful things. But otherwise, the way it's replacing the workforce, I don't think people are quite as worried about it as they should be. So yeah, I'd remove AI. I'd allow men to, like, I'd insert the ability for men to have their feelings and talk about them in a healthy way. And I would really want to fix the environment very quickly. They're the three things.
I love that. They are beautiful things to hold for a better world, right? I hear you. All right. What do you want people to know about what you got going on, Em? Here you go.
I put out a podcast every week with the aforementioned Michael Lucas. He is an incredible screenwriter. He wrote Offspring. He wrote The Newsreader. He is, like, just the most talented, amazing human. So him and I do a podcast every week called Emsolation. You can get that on all podcast platforms. I'm completely independent. I run it myself. I left Spotify on a whim, and here we are. My book, Blood, Sweat and Glitter, is still out there doing all that she should be, which I'm so grateful. It's also an audio book. And like I said, there's 2 resources. If you are neurodivergent, or you think you might be, or you want to support someone who is, I made a podcast called Anomalous, which I know that psychiatrists are handing out now, and psychologists, to newly diagnosed women, which is great. Rage Against the Vagines, another podcast I made. If you are navigating perimenopause, or do you want to passively aggressively send it to someone who needs to help you navigate perimenopause, I made it. And then the big one is the tour that I'm independently doing for the first time in my career. Wow. It's a big risk. It's a lot. I may be regretting it, but here we go. All in. I'm Addicted to Love. I've got Melbourne on the 18th of September at the Palais Theatre. I'm playing Sydney, Perth. I just done Adelaide. It was amazing. It was so great. 5-star reviews. If you're not sure about the show, just go and Google Addicted to Love. There's some great reviews so you get an idea of the show. But yeah, in any way you want to engage with my work is supporting, an independent, neurodivergent, female-run business. That's what I am and what I'm doing, and trying to encourage other women to do. So come along to the live show and bring the men. I want everyone to bring a token man.
Yes.
Because I do deliver it in a very masculine alpha way, vomit. Because, and I often find it's the dudes who come back the next year and buy the tickets for their wives. And I know that I've changed a lot of relationships. I've had messages of women saying we had a really interesting conversation in the car on the way home, and he's started unsacking the dishwasher unprompted, cooking dinners. I just, sometimes they need shit shouted at them from somebody in a leotard and a 9-piece bed. So yeah, and anyway, I'm kind of there. If you just have a look on my Instagram and stuff, but probably the tour is the biggest one. That it's my biggest financial risk. And I know times are tough at the moment, but investing in the arts is never going to disappoint you, and you will always walk away from my shows at the very least feeling like you're glad you're not me. And a plan. I like to send women away with hope and a plan.
And a plan. I love that. Well, I really want to just honor you, Em, for just the courage to put your work out there in such a big way. I know what it takes to put on big stuff and to take a risk like that. It's not easy. And I have just this theory that I applaud anyone who is courageous enough to say, I'm going to give it a crack, or I'm going to put my art out there. So I am always 100% behind anyone who is brave enough to do it, because there is enough people I speak to who never do it because they're too scared of failing. So I just bow down to you for making the stuff, for putting it out there, for speaking, your journey, because it really does help other people to know they're less alone. At the end of the day, like I always come back to, and I guess one of the reasons why I do this podcast is that we are all humans doing the best job we know how. And behind all of us is this beautiful, complex story. And I think if we knew that and understood that, we would just have more compassion for humans in the world. So thank you for being you. Thank you for putting your magic out in the world. Thank you for making everybody laugh, and for being brave enough to just to stand and occupy your space, and know that no matter how many people love you or don't, that you are worthy of being loved.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Lael. Appreciate it.
You're so welcome. Thanks, Em.
Thanks for sharing this time with me. You can find my book, Own Your Story, at bookshops or listen to the audiobook on Audible. I even read it myself. You can stay connected with Humans Being on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. We love to hear from you, so please leave a comment, question, or contemplation. And visit my website, laelstone.com.au, where you'll find lots of great resources and courses for you to explore. This podcast is produced by Nigel Carboon, recorded by the crew at We Make Online Videos, designed by Mike Gall, and our original music is created by Josh Reed. Humans Being is produced on the lands of the Bunurong and Wadawurrung people. We pay respect to the unique and diverse cultures and to elders past, present and future. Until next time, stay connected and don't forget to be human. The ads you hear at the end of this episode are served by our podcast platform and may not reflect the views of Humans Being or Lael Stone.